Good morning and welcome to SportsbookReview.com. I'm Flash and this is March into Madness. We've got Donnie and we've got Max. A great day yesterday. I put up all of the selections. I say I put them all up. I put 14 or 15 up and the green ticks were everywhere, Max.
Yeah, absolutely, Flash. It was a nice day for everybody on the show. But listen, I have to point out once again, what were you doing on Detroit Mercy?
Donnie, how did you go last night?
The Penguins out there, Flash, pull it off. But what a fun day. And I got to say, Wednesday shows and Thursday shows, it's like you have to watch this show in fast forward because of all the plays we have. Today, Flash, we get a nice pace. We can relax. We can set the tempo. What a day to be alive. It's Friday. And how about this? You two are my Valentines.
Oh, well, that's the only Valentine's I'm getting. I was looking out the window thinking, where's the postman? He's not here yet. And then someone informs me there's no postal service in Costa Rica, Max. Max, I do love your work. And a couple of plays that I wanted to go with, I didn't actually put mine in, and I put yours in. And then I got home last night and saw that you'd put green ticks next to them. Well done, Max.
Hey, listen, Flash, that's the point of the show, is to give you guys breakdowns, give you guys another angle, and then for you to decide whether to tail or fade. I always support everybody in the show, and Donnie and Flash make money at whatever costs, even if it comes at my expense.
Yeah, but them little muscles of yours, they were flexing last night. I mean, we had Texas State over Little Rock, and it was a slow start from the Trojans.
Hey, listen, Texas State with Nigel Peterson back in the lineup after his wife gave birth to their first baby. That's a big game. It happened for Freddie Van Fleet when he came back after his first son was born for the Toronto Raptors on the championship run. Well, I found a similar situation with Nigel Peterson in Texas State last night.
Donnie, Indiana blasts the Hawkeyes, and we expected that.
You know what? You're looking at I actually didn't expect it, but dumb of me, right? Because the tone and the trend of the week is, what are you doing if you want a better road team here in the Big Ten? The road team continues to hold serve. The home team continues to hold serve in the Big Ten. I'm surprised Indiana got off the carpet and rolled to an easy win over Iowa, but when you have a team that plays with some tempo with Iowa, you're going to get those, because if the other team is on key on offense, that's an extra few possessions. Indiana, wire to wire, the better team in that game. And again, if we are betting road teams in the Big Ten, wreck yourself, because that's not what you need to do, man.
No, the Big Ten is not where we're eating at the moment. Mid-majors, lower majors, you boys are just sitting down there and helping yourself to the worms. We say the early bird catches the worm. There was 24, 25 games yesterday. Just a 14 today. So let's just relax a little bit. Let's just see where we're at. But Wichita State last night, Max, they shocked Donnie.
Yeah, listen, that was a performance that we would have anticipated all throughout the season, but only got last night. It was a bad situational spot, and unfortunately, we got the worst of the number on the total. That's the thing that I took most from that game. I was on the UCF side with Donnie also, so I took a loss there. But what was really shameful is we took a push on the under, and if we had been a little more patient, we would have got that 134.5 and got that winner. So it is what it is. We have a short memory, like an Alzheimer's patient, and we move on to the next day.
Yeah, I mean, short memory is the way to go. That's the best remedy, Donnie. But Memphis are going to have to shake off that lead that they gave away. I don't know. There was like 8 up, 5 minutes to go, and they get beat.
Yeah, I was actually surprised, Flash, that they controlled that basketball game, because we were looking and talking yesterday saying, hey, you know what, if Precious Achua doesn't play in this game, or if he's banged up or too injured, this game might be an easy victory for Cincinnati. But as we roll along and take a look, getting the updates as the game goes on, Memphis was the better team in this game. And if you're up that late, just get a couple defensive stops. I know it's a tough place to play on the road, but that was your game to build momentum for the rest of the season. They let that one slip away, but that's an indicator of how tough Cincinnati is, senior laden, and has players that can make plays down the stretch. We saw it over the weekend where they couldn't pull out the overtime victory against UConn, but a nice effort at home to say, you know what, we're not going to let this one slip away. They took that victory. Going to be fun to see the rest of this conference all the way down to March Madness here, Flash.
There's always a saying that there's always someone worse off than yourself. And obviously I've got no cards. Max has only got little muscles. But what about Wagner waking up on the back of 106 points against them, Max?
Hey, listen, when FDU gets going and that's Xavier Maloney, Caleb Bishop, and Jahiel Jenkins, you better watch out and get the hell out of the freight train's way because they put up 61 points in the second half last night. Love seeing that Northeast Conference action. Love seeing that FDU team put some work in because you know what? They can be a dark horse in the conference tournament and get that bid to go back to March Madness for a second year in a row.
And that's the thing I want to
sweet on FDU. I know Anthony Mayer, if he's in the chat, he knows that I'm just talking out of my ass.
Well, listen, what's new? There's no problem. That's where your winners are. I get worried when you talk sense. But I want to be building up into March Madness because, as we say, there's 4 tournaments in the March Madness. And I think the big value is going to lie in either the CIT, the NIT. Obviously, if you've got the NCAA B futures, then good luck to you. But what happened to Hampton last night, Donnie? The Camels blew them away.
You know what? Because every time I go through, like, we'll do the show, we put all the information out, and then I look to get, like, take a little bit of time off, Flash, get that second look at the card, say, you know, what's going to make sense? And I got to tell you, looking at the team totals last night that were lined up, I did have Hampton at over 72.5 as a team total because it's one of those things. It's the same way I had Little Rock last night saying, you know what, getting 3.5 points, I'm going to do a heat check on this game and see what turns out. That one didn't work out so well, but I actually didn't end up playing the Hampton 72.5, and I'm watching this game, getting the updates and tuning in, and I'm shocked. I mean, Hampton to have 49 points is unbelievable because Campbell on the other side was able to score. And usually if the other team is able to score in that basketball game, Hampton goes right along with it. It looked uninspired. And maybe Hampton is one of those teams where you say, you know what, team totals, I'm going to stick with Hampton when they're home because obviously they have much better tempo, much better pace of play and able to score. That was odd to see Hampton under 50, Flash.
Yeah, under 50. I mean, that's bad. That's really bad. And that's nearly as bad as my Washington Huskies because they have definitely laid the tools down and we will see them over the next couple of years. I think 2 years' time we'll have to revisit them. But Max, talk to me about the AAC because it's absolutely jam-packed. And I think there might be a little outsider that might make a late run there.
Yeah, listen, I think that it's a very competitive conference so far this year. But I will say this, Memphis is not going anywhere. I'm sorry if that sounds biased, but I'm not a Penny Hardaway guy. He's a good recruiter. He's not a good coach, in my opinion, and he keeps on showing it with great recruits that I believe that he's wasting talent where a guy like John Cal would be able to do more with. I think that when it comes to this American Athletic Conference, it's really going to come down to seeding in the tournament and what the individual matchups are. You guys know I'm a UConn fan. That's who I think is going to pull and be the dark horse in this conference. I think that they're playing great perimeter defense. You're getting great contributions from Gaffney, James Bouknight, and Akok Cook. And I think that to go along with some of the old guard, this team is deep. Get Tyler Pauly back. You got an elite three-point shooter. I'm sticking with my UConn Huskies.
Yeah, well, as you would do. But they say that love is blind, especially when it comes to Valentine's Day, and especially when there's more chance of Nelson getting his eye back than you getting a Valentine's Day card or kiss, for that matter, Max. But I want to get into it early. I don't want you boys copying me. I know what you like. You tell me for your lives. But St. Bonaventure, 9-3, getting ahead of steam up. I'm going to flick to the game. I don't want to be talking about the game yet, but St. Bonaventure just giving up the 4 at home to Davidson tonight. They're my player of the day. They're my banker of the whole day. But I think they make the conference tourney, and I think they're going to be dangerous, Donnie.
Look, when you get some guys back and you get healthy, sometimes during the season when you lose some key contributors there, it actually benefits your team because other guys have to step up and rise to the challenge. I believe 5 straight wins now for St. Bonaventure, getting the big man back, Osunini, in the middle. Now, 5 straight winners in that. That's going to help because we're going to take a look. I don't want to dip because I like that Davidson game. We're going to go back and forth with a couple odd features that I think might play into that game. But if we look at overall, sitting third in the conference, one of those, like, you can actually say they're a sleeper. Say, well, wait a second, they're sitting third in the conference. How are they a sleeper? Not many people paying attention to St. Bonaventure because the top 2 teams always get the flagship here. And that's going to be, Dayton Flyers, Rhode Island Rams, even the Richmond Spiders sneak around VCU. But this is one of those teams that has everything. And I think Max is probably going to agree with this. this. If you have stellar guard play, if you have a guy that can make a bucket at any time or get to the free throw line in a tie game, you also have that inside presence that says if your three-point shots aren't falling against us, we are going to beat you. St. Bonaventure can certainly make a run. It'll be tough to overtake Dayton because we all know how good Dayton is, but don't sleep on those St. Bonaventure boys.
No, and just to reiterate, they host Davidson tonight, and they're giving up just a 4, so I'm happy with that. Max, can you split the Florida Ospreys and Liberty Flames for me in the ASUN?
Yeah, no, I think that defense wins championships, and I think that in the end, defense is going to prevail in the end between these two. If these guys meet up in the Atlantic Sun Championship, yes, North Florida's had the advantages here because Liberty has not shot the ball remotely well, but that's not what they have to do in this matchup. They have to be able to limit three-point shot attempts, force North Florida to try and go inside, and then allow their interior defense to really shine. This is a pack line defense team. This is a Richie McKay well-coached team. This is upperclassmen. They've been there, done it before. You know what? The regular season's a regular season. It's about what happens in that conference tournament championship game and getting that bid to March Madness.
All right. We've had enough of the small talk. Let's get these picks underway. We're going to start off with you, Donnie. We're going to go Buffalo versus Toledo. Buffalo getting 2.5.
Yeah, look, this is one of the conferences that we like, or at least I like here, and try to get and find some information that can actually have an impact. When we take a look at Buffalo, obviously we know how good Buffalo's been over the past couple of years. The team does have a semblance of those teams that were able to make some runs, win the MAC championship and head on in the NCAA tournament. The one thing that you do like about Toledo, they can fire from three-point range, but also when you look at Buffalo's defensive imprint, they're very athletic. So what are they going to do, Flash? They're going to chase you off the three-point line. That's the number that we want to watch, and that's the game of how it's going to play out. But if we take a look at what Buffalo does and what they do well, Buffalo is not so much a three-point shooting team. If there's 12 teams in conference, Flash, they're 11th. At 27.6% in conference play from the three-point line. Heck, they only shoot about 35% of their offensive sets from three-point range. So if they can get to the rack, they can get to the bucket, they're going to be able to win this basketball game. But if we take a look at what they want to do, 60% from inside the arc, Buffalo, I'm going to lean on it. I think Buffalo can win this game outright here, Flash.
Donnie goes with the visitors, Max. Do you fancy the unders then? Because you can't rely on both teams to be scoring the points.
Well, I think that you can rely on both these teams to score points. I think that they've done a good job in matchups that fit versus a certain kind of opponent. I think that with this Buffalo team, you have to worry about how they're going to be able to match up with Toledo. I think that when you have so much depth, it really becomes a question of what the coaching staff believes their strongest offense is. And looking at this Buffalo team, it really comes down to the guard play in my mind with Javon Graves, Devontae Jordan, Ronald Segou. If these guys can get off and then throw in Antoine Johnson, who's been a revelation since stepping into the starting lineup, this is a hard Buffalo team to beat. I think Buffalo wins with defense. Buffalo wins by controlling the boards. They're going to have to do a good job against Willie Jackson and Luke Knapke of that. I think that under 154 is the play that I'd be looking at most. But I actually see that you can get a 154.5 if you are international at Pinnacle.
Okay, would you go with Buffalo money line then? Is there value to be had on there, Max?
I definitely think that it's a win-loss situation at this number, but I would still take the points regardless of having the ability to negate the juice.
Can I have that word official out of your mouth? Under 154?
No, it's not an official play yet, but I will make the under 154.5 at -110 an official play.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking for. That's the one that I wrote down. Max, I'm going to stay with you because it's Davidson versus St. Bonaventure. We know that St. Bonaventure, they're at 9-3. They're chasing hard, but they're only giving up 4.
Yeah, this is a spot where I've already bet the under 133.5. If you can get the number, then I suggest taking it, but I will not make an official play on it just because the number's not available anymore. Plain and simply, I think that St. Bonaventure has better guard play. I think that they have the intangibles to get it done at home versus Davidson. Common opponents results favor St. Bonaventure, and my numbers really favor St. Bonaventure up to 7.5 points. So if you see 3.5, which you can get at Heritage, or 4 at most of the other books, I think that 3.5 is a play that is worth it. We're talking about St. Bonaventure team that's been good for you ATS. They're on a winning streak. They're cashing tickets for you. And this team can really play to what their opponent wants to do. I question backing them against upper tier opponents like Dayton and Rhode Island and for maybe in a sense VCU. But Davidson, no. This is where St. Bonaventure flexes their muscle, but they may need to do it in the second half.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I mean, the St. Bonaventure, -4, maybe -3.5 if you go to Heritage and one other. But the under 133.5 is definitely in play. Donnie, Akron, road favourite, having to give up 3.5 going into Central Michigan.
Real quick on that one, I want to get a quick flash point on this St. Bonaventure game.
Of course.
Max brings up some really good points on this one because when you take a look at St. Bonaventure, it's almost like the tale of two teams because they had the 5-game win streak that they just have, obviously with their big man coming back. But this is where the interesting part comes in because they did drop games to VCU, Dayton, and Rhode Island. Then you say, all right, well, how good was this 5-game win streak? Because we're taking a look at Fordham, George Mason, George Washington, Duquesne, and St. Joe's. Now, the one thing that we have with Davidson, which could give them a little bit of a problem, and the reason why sometimes I go against St. Bonaventure, not so much in the game to beat them outright or take them to cover the spread, but almost a team total on the opposite side because the one thing that they let you do is shoot the three-pointer, and the one thing that Davidson does really well, Flash, is shoot from three-point range. So I think this is going to be an interesting one because, and so I think Max even alluded to maybe the second half covering. I agree with that. Davidson earlier this morning was like a +2.5 in the first half. I can see Davidson hanging around and then maybe that stranglehold comes back later in the ball game where you say, you know what, it's a tough place to play. We're on the road. And also keep in mind, Davidson only 1-4 in conference play on the road outright anyway. So maybe a first half look on Dayton might be the better play in this one. So
yeah, so would you say that I'm best putting an in-play asterisk in this game? Maybe we assess it at halftime. But I think you can definitely take the -4 at obviously prior to the game and get it going.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because even looking at a team total for Davidson, it sits around 65, and then that first half, 2.5. St. Bonaventure should win this game. I think most of us can agree with that. I mean, maybe Davidson can snap out because they have some players that can knock down threes. They're not going to turn it over. They got a fantastic head coach. But just looking at the overall imprint on the season for Davidson, this doesn't look like it's probably going to be a victory for them. So I would lean on maybe a team total for Davidson as opposed to taking them as a side here, Flash.
Yeah, maybe go under the team total if it's that high at 65 because that's nearly bang on 50% of the total in the whole game. Let's have a look at Akron then. -3.5 going into Central Michigan, Donnie. I quite like road favourites when they're at 3.5s.
Look, I've been a proponent of Central Michigan, but the last two games, they haven't really shown me all that much. They're very versatile. They can score with their guard play. They have some guys that can get down low. They're healthy at the right time. And then you take a look at Akron, one of those teams that I like to call flamethrowers from three-point range. In conference play, Flash, shooting 40% from three-point range. If you take a look at CMU's defense, they give up about 37% from three-point range. This is a really good matchup for Akron. Also, when you take a look at the end of the game, when you're trying to cover spreads, we had a topic early in the weekend by Max saying, how important is it to make those free throws? This team shoots 81% as a team in conference play from the free throw line. I think Akron is going to be able to control the tempo in this game. I just think overall Akron's better on defense, really efficient on offense. They'll pick and choose their spots, but it is tough to go on the road anytime and win. I just think Akron overall is the better team. If they're able to get their three-point looks, Akron's the better side in this one for me, Flash.
Max, have we got a wire-to-wire here with the visitors?
No, I actually looked the other way on this game. I think that with Akron, definitely they've rewarded bettors who've taken them on the road with a 7-1 ATS record. But I think that with David DeLeo, he's going to be the key for Central Michigan tonight. I think that coming off that less than stellar performance at home versus Eastern Michigan, I think that they're going to be a little more in touch tonight. Like Donnie said, both these teams are very good free throw shooting teams. I think that there is going to be a lot of free throws. I think there's going to be a lot of late second half scoring. I'm more looking towards the over in this game, even though it's moving down. I see a 150.5 right now. I'm going to be holding off on waiting on it because I think Central Michigan's going to get their tempo. There's going to be scoring opportunities for both teams in this game, and I think that this game is going to be going over.
Okay, I'll put
nothing
over.
Official.
No, not yet. Okay, I'll take the over 150. I'll have a little look and we'll see if we can get 148, 149 if it keeps going down. But UIC versus Wright State. Wright State giving up 10.5, Max. I always hate it when the home team have to give up such a big number.
Listen, with Wright State, this is the kind of offense that merits giving up, having a double-digit spread on them. When you look at Cole Gentry, Billy Wampler, Ludin Love, these are guys that score the basketball high frequency. They can get inside. They can do it from the perimeter. The question is, what are you going to get defensively from Wright State tonight, from UIC tonight? UIC definitely wants to keep this game a little slower. I don't think that they want to get into a run and gun game with Wright State. I think that just plays into their offensive game plan. You got good guards for UIC. They have good continuity, good on-court chemistry. I think that this is too many points, but we've already missed the best of the line, so I can't make an official play on it.
What's the under? What is the total?
It's 148 or 147.5 across the board. I'd still be looking towards the under. So,
yeah, it's a big number, especially if UIC want to slow it down, Donnie. We're looking at 147.5. The only way that UIC are going to get any sort of respectability out of this is if they play a slow game.
It's going to be interesting because when you take a look at Wright's defense, overall in the conference, there's 10 teams in conference play. Wright State comes in third overall in efficiency on defense, and then UIC comes in at second overall. That's going to be the challenge in the matchup is Wright State's overall efficiency on offense versus UIC. When we take a look at what these two teams like to do, it actually is a nice little imprint that you could take a look at because UIC only shooting about 33% from three-point range of their total shots, Flash. If you take a look at Wright State's defense, they're number one in the conference at defending the three-point range at 27%. But when you look at what UIC wants to do, penetrate, get to the rack, Targus Ferguson, 55%, close to 56% of the total points for UIC come inside the arc. And that's a nice matchup because you know who gives up more points than anybody in conference play? Is Wright State inside the arc. So you might get some points that way. And I think Wright State's offense, because we look at UIC's defense and say, okay, it's pretty good. Wright State is a really good offense. I mean, we're talking 43% in conference from three-point range. UIC does defend it well, but it's just a matter of getting those shots off when you want to because Wright State isn't like one of those teams like Akron or when we take a look at Quinnipiac that says, you know what, I would love to shoot 50% of my shots from three-point range. That's not what they do. They only shoot about 33% of their total shots from three-point range, which means they're picking, they're choosing. They're waiting till they're wide open, 2 to 3 passes. That's why they're shooting at such a high level. I think it does stay under the total because you don't have two teams that are just a complete mess on defense. You do have efficient offenses. So if you can just get one of those stretches, which we see a lot in college basketball, where defense locks in a 5-minute period where you only get 6 or 7 total points, it should stay under the total at that point.
Well, we got Martin Asante, Clarence Davis, Steve Overlay. They're all liking Wright State, even though the number's in double digits. Listen, it's one of those. Just take the under. What did we say? It was under 147.5. Big number, that. That's going to need both teams to contribute. But let's go. Indiana and Purdue going to Northern Kentucky. And IUPUI getting 15.5, Max.
Yeah, this is a spot where I'm only looking at IUPUI's team total over. I don't have a play on it yet. Something that I'll have to look at later on in the day, but nothing strong on a side or total in this game for me.
What is their team total at the moment?
Well, I would think that it's in the low 60s. I don't have a line for me right now on it, so I can't tell you.
Okay, well, if it does pop up, then obviously we can revisit it. No problem at all. We've still got plenty to go. Donnie,
66, Max. 66 is the team total there for IUPUI.
And you want to go over? You want to go over or under that, Max?
Well, I had it at 68.5, so it has a little bit of value. I have to look into it a little more. I can't make a play on it right now.
That's it. You keep looking. Donnie, how do you think this one goes?
Yeah, Dantez Walton's been back, and I remember Pester and Max in some of those live line shows saying, hey, when are we going to get Dantez Walton back? Well, I think it's one of those things for Northern Kentucky now looking to just press forward into conference play in the horizon and say, you know what, we can actually win this thing and punch our ticket to March Madness. There's not a lot that IUPUI does well, but if you're taking a look at a team total, you know what helps? When you're probably going to get beat by double digits, but you still have tempo, which means at the end of the game, you're still going to be pushing maybe against some second-string players. IUPUI's defense, not very good. We're talking about 40% 40. They give up 40% from three-point range, which means NKU, who doesn't shoot that well from three-point range, if they can connect on some shots against a softer defense, that should push some of those totals up. It's a nice match also because 48% of the points that IUPUI gives up is inside of the arc. That's exactly the amount of points in conference play that NKU does score from inside of the arc as well. So that does match up. It's just a factor of, Max, can they make those shots? Because NKU's defense is number one in the conference, 30% from three-point range, 47% from two. If they can make their free throws, IUPUI, the pace should be there, and NKU should be able to score. It's just a matter of the fact is, and late in that ball game, if it's too much out of hand, can IUPUI tack on and get that, 10 points over the last 3.5 to 4 minutes?
Kevin Lee just come straight out with it. Kentucky cover. 15.5, not batting an eyelid. I tell you what shocked me most in the chat, though, is the Sports Keg CEOs up at this time of day. Either I don't know what's gone on there. There must have been an earthquake or there must have been a fire engine blowing outside his window because he only ever sees 9 o'clock in a day, and it's normally the latter. OK, let's kick on. Return of the Mac. Monmouth getting 1.5 as they go into Canisius. Max.
Oh, yeah. When Monmouth and Canisius go at it tonight, I'm definitely looking at the road team in this spot. This is a Monmouth team that I think is much improved, very experienced, and is on a 2-game losing streak, and I think that they're going to be able to correct that tonight. Obviously, they've had a little bit of trouble with some of these slower-paced teams in Fairfield and St. Peter's. I think that they get it right against Canisius. This is a team that they have already dominated in conference, beating by 19 at home. I think that it's a similar situation. I look at the line move, and I don't like it. I don't like seeing the fact that Canisius is mislined in this situation. So the only way for me to play this game is Monmouth, full game, on the spread. I got +1. So if you can get a better number, obviously you can at if you're at Pinnacle, but +1 at -115 across the board is available.
Max, why would you not
really
just
much else to say?
Max, why would you not just go money line and just got that extra bit? I mean, do you really feel as if the 1.5 points is going to be that much difference?
I think within this conference specifically, the Metro Atlantic has a lot of parity right now. Look at the conference standings. Everybody's bunched up. Everybody's slogging on everybody. And I think that with Canisius, there is definitely the sentiment that this is a revenge situation. But they turn the ball over too much. That's going to be their downfall. If you can't protect the ball, you can't move the ball, and you succumb to pressure, that's going to be Monmouth's feasting plate. They do a good job of the free throw line. There's really not much else to say. I think for show purposes, I have to play it safer than I would on my own accounts, and that's why I'm taking the +1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with going safe, but what I'm happy to be schooled on Canisius, Donnie. Not Canisius.
Yeah, there you go. Look, we learned. Look, you saw when I put out the promo video today. I'm trying to get your dialect correct and all that stuff. It's nice. If you want to call Canisius, go ahead. If you want to call Canisius, I'm fine with it as well. So I'm sure the people in the chat box are fine with that also. Monmouth Canisius tonight. This is it. This is why I like this conference. And Max is right. There's a ton of parity here. Let's try to rehash what the Metro Atlantic really is, because these are the games that we struggle with. And the reason being is if it's St. Peter's and Iona, if it's Manhattan, Iona, Fairfield, whoever is in the city, St. Peter's, Ryder, they're all in the same general area. So when you say, let's take a road game from Ryder to St. Peter's, it's like a 25, 30-minute bus ride. Or Iona, which is in the city, New Rochelle, goes over to Manhattan and plays. That's a quick bus ride. But we're not talking about Kentucky, as I always like to say, flying 5-star private aircraft down to play Florida and be very comfortable. They are getting on a bus at Monmouth in New Jersey and taking it all the way out to Buffalo and probably staying at like a Super 8 or something like that. So not the most comfortable conditions, and we often see these teams go out to Buffalo where they take the bus all the way across the state and don't play well. Their legs aren't there. Monmouth clearly is the better basketball team in this environment. If we take a look at imprint here, if Canisius could shoot at all from three-point range, they could do some damage against Monmouth, but they can't. 11 teams in conference, they shoot 28% as a team from three-point range. Conversely, Monmouth's defense is one of the worst teams at defending the three at 38%. So if you say if they're going to get their average effort, or again, I get back to Quinnipiac, if they shoot 50% of their shots from three-point range, that's how you attack Monmouth. If we look at Canisius on offense, number one in the conference, Flash, 58% of their points come from inside of three-point range. That's not how you're going to beat Monmouth in this game. Even though Monmouth is a Jekyll and Hyde team, losers of 3 or 4 games, they're the better team to me overall, and I would be surprised if Canisius controls the tempo here. Monmouth are nobody in this game for me, Flash.
Yeah, the big thing about everything you said there, Donnie, was your disdain for the Super 8 hotel. I'm thinking that's more your Max. I'm trying to get a grip and a handle on what Super 8 is. But Waldorf Astoria for Donnie. Super 8 for you, Max.
Yeah, no, never Super 8. I have to stay in at least a 4-star hotel, even if I'm only there for an hour.
Oh, boy.
Okay, take me to Max. I'm going to come to you, Fairfield. Getting 2.5 at Marist.
Yeah, this is an interesting spot for Marist. I think that with the total rising 3.5 points, definitely missing the best of the line if you're looking to get on the over. But I still think that this game finds its way staying under this number. It's a crazy number, I know, because both these teams are going to let you get over 60 points. It's just a matter of what can you really expect on offense. Fairfield with Jesus Cruz and Landon Talaferro, we know what we're going to get from them. Good penetration, inside the perimeter shooting. But I just can't get behind Fairfield on the road. I think with this Marist team, they've been stingy. You know, they've been improving over the last couple games, and it's not really because of Michael Cubbage or Ty Sagi. So when you're getting a bunch of performances from guys that I didn't even really think that had that type of performances in them, that's a difference maker. As far as making official play, I'd be looking at the under 116.5, but nothing on the side because I'm just not confident enough to give that out as an official play.
116.5. That's very, very low, Donnie.
I mean, look, and it should be that low because I think me, Max, and you, Flash, could get out here and give each one of these teams a run for their money. What they do well, you're looking at a conference that's saying, you know what? Probably more built on shooting, not the best athletic conference. When you take a look at Fairfield's offense, 11th in efficiency out of 11 teams. And oh yeah, Flash, Marist, 10th out of 11 teams in offensive efficiency. It's a matter of who's going to make baskets. But the pace of the game is going to be slow. We're talking about a conference with not a ton of tempo outside of teams of like Ryder and maybe Monmouth a bit, or those top echelon teams. These are at the bottom. Marist on offense is 10th in the conference, taking almost 19 seconds out of the 30-second shot clock to shoot. And then you take a look, 20 for Fairfield on offense. These two teams aren't looking to push it. I always joke about these teams, Flash. When you take a look like Virginia, if they had a 2-on-0 fast break, they probably would rather pull it out and set up their offense and see if they can get another shot. This is a bad game. It's Valentine's Day. Take your Valentine out unless you're going to watch. If you say, you know what, honey, let's get a pizza, let's get some beers, let's watch Fairfield Marist, you're a bigger man than it. I have no play in this game, and I don't care to have a play in this game, Flash.
No, it's a snore fest, and if you say get a pizza and sit down with the missus and watch this game, you won't have a missus tomorrow morning because you are going to be one hell of a loner. Let's move to Manhattan versus Iona, and Iona are giving up the 3.5, Max.
Yeah, with Iona definitely missing Asante Gist, but we've seen E.J. Crawford and Tajon Agee be able to stay on the floor, stay out of foul trouble, and contribute offensively. This is a team that's definitely finding their mojo at the right time of the season. Missing their coach is always a factor that you definitely play into it. You got a hot Manhattan team coming in, you know, and you got revenge for Iona. We saw what happened in the first game with these two guys. They played a tight first half, and then Manhattan just opened a can of whoop ass on them, and it was slow and a pathetic way to go out. I think that they're up, ready for this game. That was the first game without Asante Gist. They figured out how to play without him. I think that they go get revenge tonight. Give me Iona -3.
Official?
Yeah, official.
That's
Let's
good
do it.
because we've got people in the chat saying any chance of a bit of official play. They love the officials. And you know why? Because there were so many green ticks, the early birds. They want them worms, Donnie, and they need officials.
Let's go. Look, this isn't first take. We're going to agree on everything right on TV. I'm going against Max in this one, and I don't give a damn. I'm taking Manhattan this game, and here's why we're going to do this. In the city, in the 5 boroughs of New York City, Flash, if you're tough, knuckle up, and that is what Manhattan can do. When you're looking at Iona, it's nice. 2 straight victories. They sort of righted the ship. You're right. They got rid, Gist goes down with the fractured foot injury. This is a softer team, which isn't a bad thing in conference play because they can hit the outside shot. They have a lot of players that can work inside and outside and get to the rim. But when I take a look at Manhattan and when they're running right, 3 straight victories now, finally healthy. The one key ingredient I need in this game, which I think he's going to get open looks, is Tyler Reynolds. 3 for his last 21 from three-point range. He's their sniper. If he can get going, that adds that inside-outside game. Paulie Cap Williams down low. They can abuse Iona if they let themselves work it in. So if you don't turn the basketball over, which sometimes Manhattan does have an issue with. But I just think one of these games, when you look at the last few games, let's just say with Manhattan, right? They play Quinnipiac. We know Quinnipiac wants to shoot the 3, a little bit softer team. They bully ball these type of teams. I think Manhattan can bully them. I'm taking the points in this game. I love Iona. When Iona has Tim Cluis back on the bench as head coach, and maybe they get him back for the conference tournament, they're always a team to watch out for. But when I look at Manhattan, they do a lot of things that can frustrate Iona. As long as Iona is not launching and connecting on 40% of their 3-point shots, I think Manhattan can play bully ball and hang around. Give me Manhattan. And everybody listening out there, don't listen to Max's recap on that one. Take Manhattan.
Toss of a coin, Team Donnie. You take the points and the road dog, or you go with Max and you take the home favourite, giving up 3. There's 3.5 there for Donnie. And have a look at the team total, or you just stay away. Don Corleone's giving it the old... Not for me if they're both going head-to-head. I'm just going to step out of this one and let the 2 deers rut. We like that. It's that time of season. It's like the March Madness of the hares. Okay, Quinnipiac versus St. Peter's. Did I say that okay, Donnie? And they're getting 5.5.
Yeah, Quinnipiac, whatever you want, Flash. It's your show. You tell us what the actual pronunciation of these weird teams are. Because, again, if I'm looking from the outside and I'm not used to these conferences, I'm jacking all these up as well. When we take Leicester City, I would call it Leicester City, Flash, just to be safe on that one. But Quinnipiac versus St. Peter's, here's what we don't like, right? Whenever you see St. Peter's pop up, what do you want? Oh, St. Peter's getting 4 points. That's awesome. This is a complete and utter flip. But here's where the game makes sense to me if you're looking to back St. Peter's. They're more athletic. They're at home. They play well at home. They do things that can frustrate Quinnipiac. They can get to the rack. They have guys that can penetrate, kick out. And finally, from what we saw over the past couple years with St. Peter's, they can actually make a 3-pointer or 2 when in the past they were so offensively deficient it was hard to watch. Not the case anymore. If you're looking at Quinnipiac and you want a team that Quinnipiac can beat, that's a team that's going to let you shoot 3-pointers because they are a volume 3-point shooting team with 3 flamethrowers led by Rich Kelly, the point guard. If they struggle a little bit from 3-point range, it's a wrap. It's over. So if you're looking at this game and saying, you know what, how's Quinnipiac's path to victory going to take place? They literally have to hit 10, 12, 13 3-pointers to stay in this game versus St. Peter's, because when you look at their offensive imprint in conference, they are dead last at scoring from inside the arc. And when we take a look at teams that match up, remember, if you take a look maybe even in the Mid-American Conference and Eastern Michigan of how they play that amoeba-type zone, even against really good 3-point shooting teams like Akron, sometimes they look and say, boy, I can't get any of these 3-pointers off. I'm pump faking a lot. I'm making the extra pass instead of pulling up. If that's the case tonight where St. Peter's can impose their will, there's no way Quinnipiac scores inside. St. Peter's a little bit more versatile. But the question, again, we're gamblers. Now that you're looking at St. Peter's playing the favorite role, and not just by 1.5 or 2.5, they're going to have to win this game by margin. I still think they can. I'm a St. Peter's believer, but maybe even looking, Flash, at a team total over for St. Peter's as opposed to even covering here.
Team total over. Is this as close a game than the 5.5, Max?
I think that this is going to turn into a St. Peter's rout. I think that with St. Peter's, we've seen the depth that they play with. They can throw in a multitude of different freaking combinations of players at you, whether it be Estrada, whether it be Doug Eder, whether it be Darius Banks III, Quinn Taylor. They all do different things, and you can see that they play strong team basketball. They get to the free throw line. We're talking about a team that makes 22 free throws. Makes over the last 5 games alone. They do a great job at home. I've made the mistake of going against them at home, and I've learned my lesson. This is a team that is on the rise. This is a team that's worthy of the number, and the fact is I can't trust a team that only wants to shoot from the perimeter like Donnie alluded to. It's St. Peter's on a cider pass, but I'll tell you right now, my play of the day is the under on this game. I think that St. Peter's may get their points, but I think Quinnipiac struggles to get to 60. So under 136.5 is my play of the day.
136.5, play of the day. That's official. We love official. We love play of the day. And by the way, Max, all your family members are in the chat. They're not having any of me, nothing of Donnie. And they're saying that Max has put cash in my pocket for the last 3 years. So why are they even questioning him? Stay quiet. Just listen to Max. Well, what a bad show that would be. We'd all be throwing ourselves off the bridge if we had to listen to just Max, Donnie. We're going to go Ryder versus Siena 9, and Ryder are getting 5.
Yeah, by the way, in the chat box also, I did get an amen out there, so that sort of puts that trump card over every single goodwill effort that the people are saying about Max.
Yeah, but that's when you finished your conversation. When you finished talking, that's when the amen came out.
That's a pretty good one for you, Flash. I'm going to catch your stand-up here. You'll be here all week, right? All right, so let's get Ryder Siena and what we like about this game. I think this is the game of the night in the MAC, heading into Siena. What do we like about Siena? Well, how about Flash? I don't know. They haven't lost at home yet this year. And we take a look at Ryder, one of the more enigmatic teams that you're going to watch. The thing that you like about Ryder, they are supremely athletic. And to me, overall, if you listed all these teams in order, I think Ryder has singly the most talent in conference. Stevie Jordan, Dementio Vaughn, Frederick Scott, Tyre Marshall, they are really good. But sometimes when you watch them and say, Kevin Baggett's team, it's just not all there. But when we take a look at Ryder on offense, there's some things that they can do certainly to try to match up. 52% of the points from Siena's defense come from inside the three-point arc, and that's exactly where Ryder wants to be able to attack with Stevie Jordan, drive into the lane, kick out threes. When we look at overall effective field goal percentage and even efficiency, both of these guys in the top 5. Heck, Ryder's number 2 in efficiency in the conference. Siena is number 1. When you take a look at Siena from their side of the basketball, they do everything well. Effective field goal percentage, they rebound, they shoot the three, 2-point range. This is one of those games where I look at and say, yes, Ryder can step up and win this game because they're talented enough to beat anybody here. But Siena is really good, really well coached, won't turn the basketball over. They are at home. I lean towards Siena in this spot, specifically, Max, and also Flash, because they're at home and they don't lose at home. Until I see them lose at home and throw a clunker out here, it's hard to get on the other side.
Max, we all love you. It's Valentine's Day. Siena, can they give up the 5? But are we not going with an over total?
Actually, I'm looking towards the under. What I've seen.
What, just because I said teams, over, you say under? If I say grey, you say like white or blue or... Come on then. No. Give me your reason.
No, Flash. I capped these games yesterday and I have created lines. I know exactly what I'm going to take. It's just a matter of determining if I'm going to give it out on the show. But for this game, my numbers like the under. What have I seen from Ryder the last 5 or 6 games? There's been less volume free throw shooting, which is a lot of points that I think that they need to depend on. And the fact is, Siena, like Donnie alluded to, they got a bulletproof vest that they're wearing at home, and they're 10-0 right now. This is a game where I don't see them getting over 138.5, and I think that there's a lot of value at 147.5. With Siena, I think that there's good on-ball defenders, whether it's Elijah Burns, whether it be Jalen Pickett. These guys are going to be able to stay with Dementio Vaughn and Stevie Jordan. I think that the real matchup is going to be up in the front court. And if you're going to spot me 5.5 points with Ryder, I'm going to look towards them as a side, just because Siena can still win this game, and that doesn't mean that they got to win by 6. It seems like a tall task, especially in such a parity-filled conference. But for show purposes, there's nothing that's going to sway me off the under. And if I lose it, then I'll eat crow and I'll come back on Monday and I'll take my lumps for it.
Listen, we don't want you having any lumps. We don't want you having any crows. We want you winning under 147.5 official. And we also like the Siena -5, Donnie. And before we go to the Ivy League, there's a big poker tournament for charity tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern. Lee, take it away, girl.
Hey guys, Lee Martin here. On Saturday, February 15th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, SBR is hosting a poker charity tournament to raise awareness about Angelman syndrome, or AS. AS is a rare disorder that currently has no cure. Symptoms include developmental delays, no or minimal use of words, seizures, and a few other serious conditions. To take part in the event, reserve a seat by logging into the SBR poker client and buy into the event with 200 bet points. For each buy-in made, SBR will donate $20 to cureangelman.org. If you're curious if this is a legitimate charity, know that this is SBR's 6th year running this tournament. SBR will also provide a list of donors as well as an invoice of payment to the charity once the event concludes. Over here at SBR, we have members of our forum family that have been directly affected by this syndrome. Our goal is to raise more awareness and help drive fundraising to support research and an eventual cure for Angelman syndrome. We hope for an even greater turnout this year, so please spread the word to friends, family, and anyone else who is willing to participate in the event. I'll see you then.
Cheers, Lee. Well, we're going to go to the Ivy League. We've got 4 games to go. We've got plenty time. We're going to enjoy it. Brown getting 7 at Pennsylvania, Donnie.
Yeah, by the way, this is at the Palestra in Philadelphia, one of the 2 oldest gyms in the country. I believe the other one is Rose Cup, where Fordham plays. So that would be right around the time Flash was born, like 150 years ago. So this is always a nice institution to get back to. The Ivy League, much, much smarter than all 3 of us combined, I would say, some of these players that are out there on the court. If we take a look at Brown on offense, not the greatest offense. Efficiency, really not there. But the one thing they do, here's the matchup I like, because it's about, 6.5, 7-point spread across the board in Penn's favor. It's a matter of, can Brown get to the free throw line? Number 1 in the conference. How about this? Almost 50% of their attempts, meaning their free throw attempts outside of their shots, come from the free throw line. If we look at their total points distribution, 29% of their offense comes from not the 3-point line, not inside the arc, the free throw line. But also when you take a look at Penn, they don't foul all that much. Only about 14% of the points that Penn gives up are from the free throw line. That's going to be the key indicator. If Brown can get to the line, they can cover the spread. I don't think they can get to the line. And when we take a look at Penn from an offensive imprint, they don't rely on the 3-point shot. How about this, Flash? 60% of Penn's offense comes inside the 3-point line. I think they'll be able to maneuver. I think they'll be able to do whatever they want inside, because when you take a look at the versatility of inside and outside game, Penn has it. But the one key ingredient also, Brown wants to get out with some tempo. Penn also has tempo, but Brown feasts on teams by forcing turnovers. Penn doesn't turn the basketball over. So if we look at this game in a nutshell from my perspective, just to keep it simple, I don't think Brown's going to get to the free throw line like they want to, and I don't think Brown's going to get that elevated number of turnovers. They need to push the tempo and go the opposite way. I'm going to lay Penn with the big number here, Flash.
Penn giving up 7, and he mentioned simple. So that means we must be going to you, Max.
That's a good one, Flash. I look the other way on this game. I think that with Tamang Chow and Brandon Anderson, you know that they have enough physicality, strength, and size to be able to roll off pick and rolls and screens and get to the bucket in the half-court offense. I think it really comes down to what you're going to get from the perimeter when you get these drives and you get these kickouts to guys like Zach Hunsaker. If you can hit the 3-point shot at a respectable rate for a respectable amount of volume, I think that you can surprise Pennsylvania knowing that they do think that one of your main offensive goals is going to be getting close to the rim. I think that with A.J. Brodeur, it's going to be a handful for the Brown front court to take care of, but I do think this is a team with grit. This is a team that's turned it around. I think that when you play Yale, I think that's a little more troubling just based on how they guard you and how they're able to stifle you into their tempo. But I don't know. I think that this is just 1 or 2 points too many by my numbers, so I would be looking at Brown +7.
There we go again. Head to head. 2 rutting stags have seen a nice bird. And just a little word of advice that I can definitely say I'm qualified to give is stay away from the rim, Max. Stay away from the rim. Okay. Donnie, we're going to go Columbia versus Dartmouth. And Columbia getting 5.5.
Yeah, I mean, look, just look in the background of these teams, right? Ivy League, one team's 1-5 in conference, the other team is 0-6. Close your eyes, because when you watch Dartmouth's offense outside of yelling, "Go, Bernie Sanders, go!" 86% efficiency in the conference. That's dead last. What do they do well, Max? Effective field goal percentage, which means a combination of the 2s and 3s, stinks. What do? At least they protect the ball, right? Stinks. They turn it over. How about rebounding? Awful. How about getting to the free throw line? Even worse. So we're taking a look at a team that cannot score, but then you're taking a look at a team they're going against with Columbia that cannot defend. But if you want to break down a defense that can't defend, you need some offensive efficiency, and you need no turnovers, and you need to get to the free throw line and hit your shots. They can't do it. The only way I would look in this game is Dartmouth, but it's Valentine's Day. Take your Valentine out and look the other way from this game.
The thing is, you're saying take your Valentine out. Max, have you ever had a Valentine's evening out?
Flash, maybe not. I don't know. I can't remember. But as far as this game, I'll say this. I don't think that this I don't think that this first half total hit 60. My play that I've already made on this game is under full game, 129.5, and I'm going to make a play on the first half under as well. I think that Donnie pointed out the bullseye right there. Both these teams do not shoot the three-point well. Both these teams don't get to the free throw line. And I think that when you have a go-to scorer like Mike Smith, it can sometimes make your team quite stagnant. I think that's the effect that Columbia has quite often so far, at least in conference season. And when I look at this Dartmouth team, the fact is, without Brendan Barry running the point and running the show, this is a team that I can't trust to score the basketball consistently. When I look at their conference play and I look at the numbers and then I watch the games because they're on ESPN Plus, this is a team that I think that gets to 122, 123, but definitely does not get over the 129.5. So 129.5 is an official play on the under.
129.5 on the under. Happy with that. We're going to go Cornell versus Hartford. Cornell getting close to 2 TDs. 13.5 for the road dog, Donnie.
Hey, looking at this game, Flash, this is one of those where I actually like a total look on this one. And even though the total is dropping, opened up around the offshore around 137.5, 138. Now you can get 136s. I actually like the over in this game, and here's why. Because you hear me a lot talk about styles that match up, where if you're just taking it in like the boxing ring, if one guy has a longer reach advantage, he can do some damage, or the other guy doesn't want you to get inside, he wants to keep you away. If you look at these games, both of these teams should be able to do what they want on offense. And what I mean by that is if you look at 3-point percent shooting, or the amount of volume that you take, when you take a look at Cornell's offense in conference play, they're second in the conference at about 42% of their total volume coming from 3-point range. If you look at Harvard's defense, they give up about 39% of their total shots from 2-point range. If we take a look at point distribution, which is always key of how these teams score on each other, 6th in the conference is Cornell from inside the arc at about 48% of their total offense coming from there. And then if you take a look at Harvard's defense, it's identical. 47% where they give up from 2-point range inside the arc. If we flip it over to Harvard's offense, they want to shoot about 39% of their shots from 3-point range. Oh yeah, Cornell, they give up about 37% of their shots. And then also when you flip it to down low, this is a perfect match. 52% of Harvard's points, Flash, come from inside of 3-point range. Cornell's defense, they give up 53% of their defensive points from inside 2-point range. Styles make fights. It should be here. You'll get a little bit more tempo out of Harvard. As long as we don't go cold from 3-point range, I think we're going to get this. I'll take the value going from 138 down to 136, and I'll push this one over the total for us tonight.
Max, we're going over 136. Compelling from Donnie. Are you putting a pin in his balloon, or are you going with him?
Unfortunately, I'm going the other way on this, but my stronger play, and the play I want to make official for the show is this Cornell first half. I think that Cornell definitely has the pace and tempo and offensive efficiency to stay with Harvard in the first half when I look at my numbers. Also, what have we seen from Harvard since Bryce Aiken went out of the lineup? This team has played well, good balance, together basketball. And I think that giving them the benefit of the doubt with a 13.5-point spread is just too much. I think that Cornell has the best chance to stay in this game early at plus 7.5 and minus 105 is the play I'm going to make official for the show. Cornell's done a better job of limiting offense in the first half. I think that continues tonight. I think that Harvard definitely doesn't have a high propensity to blow teams out early on. This is a team that I think will adjust situationally and make adjustments at halftime and then maybe carry it on and win closer to double digits. But for show purposes and value and time purposes, I'm just going to stop blabbering and take Cornell plus 7.5 first half.
Okay, and Donnie, I'm not going to lose faith. I'm going to go over 136. I will be tweeting them out later on. I will be trying to sieve through. But someone in the chat saying, holy cow, how do you make confidence plays when they're going head to head? Well, you listen to what they say, you make up your own mind, and you may find a middle ground. Sometimes you leave it alone. But like yesterday, we had 20-odd selections. We put out 14, and there was 9 green ticks. You made maybe 7, maybe 8 units because there was a couple of money lines. So you pay your money, you take your chance, but you listen. And listen, you're going to come out with plenty green ticks. Last game of the day seems to be one of the most popular bets on the card today. Yale giving up 3.5, going into Princeton, Max.
Yeah, I'm already on Princeton plus 4. This was a overnight play that I made, plain and simply with Jalen Llewellyn. Sorry, I'm butchering her names today, but I'm Canadian. That's my accent kicking in. I think that this is a Princeton team that has all the pieces necessary to step up and into Yale. You have good point guard play. You have Richard Uragoza and Ryan Schweber in the front court that can give you 2 different types of thing. Uragoza with the inside play, getting to the free throw line, protecting the rim, and Schweber on the outside, and a guy who can take you off the dribble and go inside. We've seen Princeton be definitely a lot more respectable at home. I think coming off some somewhat disappointing performances lately, specifically in that game against Cornell, I think that they're ready to step up and into. I don't think that there's a look-ahead spot in that Columbia game towards this Yale game. I think that they just know that Jordan Bruner, Paul Atkinson, they're going to have troubles dealing with the front court of Yale. I'm not saying that Princeton wins the game outright, but at plus 4, I thought there was enough value on the number and on the line to warrant making the bet. So if I can't get 4, I'm not going to make it official for the show.
Okay, don't worry, I'll give you 4. Donnie, Yale or Princeton?
Look, Max is on it. He's right here, and I'm going to look for the home dog up in Jadwin in Princeton, and I taking those 4 points because when you look at Yale and you say, boy, they're really efficient, they're really good on offense, how can Princeton keep up? But again, when you take a look at how the points are going to be scored and distributed for Yale, they want to shoot the 3-point shot. They're 42% in Ivy League conference play from 3-point range. You know what defends at the best in conference, Flash? That is Princeton at 26%. And oh yeah, if we look at Yale, who shoots more 3-point shots in volume in Ivy League conference play than Yale? Nobody. They're number 1. But how about chasing you off of the 3-point line? Number 1 in conference in Ivy League. That is Princeton. If we look at the point distribution, 3-point range, they're number 1 in the conference at total points from 3-point range per game for Yale. But if we take a look, they're dead last in conference play at scoring inside of 2-point range, inside of 3-point range. Conversely, when we look at Princeton's defense, they are a sieve down low. They give up 65% of their points from inside the arc, but that's not what Yale wants to do. If we take a look at Princeton hanging around, frustrate Yale from the 3-point line, force them to drive to the bucket, which they don't want to do. And then when you put over and say, well, Donnie, if Yale's number 1 on offense, they're number 1 on defense too. What is the pathway to victory for Princeton? You ever watch Princeton play? Back cuts and screens, ultra efficient on on offense, even though Yale plays a really good style of defense and will force you into some things you don't want to do, they're not going to stop the offense from Princeton on what they want to do. If we're looking from three-point range, 37% in conference play, volume shooter for Princeton, 42% from Yale from three-point range. So they're going to pick and choose their three-point shots and also scoring from two-point range. The balance of the Princeton offense will keep them around in this game. Do I think they can win it outright? Possibility, but I'm going to take the points because I think Princeton can frustrate Yale a little bit on what they want to do for offense. I'll take the home team. I'll take the home dog.
There you go. The Rutting Stags are cuddling in the last matchup, the last game of the day that we're going to cover. Just to make sure that the one recap I'm going to give you is the play of the day. St. Peter's under 136.5. Go eat that worm. Donnie, it's been a great week. I've really enjoyed it. Looking forward to some massive matchups next week. Have a great weekend, Max.
Thanks very much. Great doing the show with you guys this first week. Look forward to it next week. And thanks to everybody in the chat box that's been here all week. Can't do the show without you guys.
No, we've got 220 watching. Any chance of just pressing that thumbs up? If you don't like it, press the thumbs down. Don't sit on the fence. It's either up or it's down. I'll see you next week.